Well, hello, it's Gerald Duran and Scott Fairchild with CanaGlobal, and we're in stage 3 Lean Business Canvas.
Yeah, lean.
Are you there?
No,
We just-
I used to be. You're talking about, I thought
Yeah.
you meant, I used to be lean, but I don't know, something happened.
Well,
Anyway, okay.
let's not talk about that.
Oh, okay, all right.
But just an hour ago, we were in stage 3 of His Plan, My Plan. And it's interesting how there's a tie-in between the two, which we'll cover today. Stage, to back up a little bit and get into stage 1 and 2, just a little bit of a refresh of where we've been. Whether you're a startup and this is your first business, or you already have an existing company and probably you've had flat revenue and we're looking for ways to re-accelerate and kind of almost like a turnaround, either one apply. But when we started this with stage 1, we talked about life plan. Now you've gone through life plan with a lot of different people.
Right.
And what is, when you've watched people go out there and kind of whiteboard how they want their life to look in 5 years, what's your observation of that process?
Well, first, it's a lot of fun because for so many people, it's like, well, I'm just going to wait on God, or I'm going to. No. You have to have a plan, and God even blesses plans. It talks about it in Proverbs. So I enjoy that because once they get this, you give them permission to begin to dream and go out 5 years. They have a great time. It's really revelational, if you want to call it that. It really is helpful to people.
Okay, Mr. Bible Man, what? I'm going to pick on you for a scripture now.
Uh-oh.
I'm going to Scott knows all the scriptures. He's got the whole Bible memorized.
I know a few. I know.
So what is the scripture that says, write the vision so you know it. Write the vision and make it plain.
Yeah.
You got to put it in writing.
Yeah.
And there's something about when you commit it to writing. And stage 1 with life plan is about deciding how you want your life to look. And we just pick 5 years. We could look at 7 years, we could look at 3 years, but that's a number that we go with because we can make a lot of progress in 5 years. And the reason we do life plan is because so many people put all their time, energy, and focus into their business and they've lost sight of what they wanted personally for themselves and their family.
Right.
So when that happens, they become a slave to their business instead of their business becoming a slave to them. So that's what we did with Life Plan. That was stage 1.
That's a really good one. And we see this a lot with nonprofits. That's what they end up doing. They end up becoming a slave to their nonprofits. Like, wait a minute, that's not the way it's supposed to work.
And really, almost every startup founder, they just, hey, I'm just going to work 80 hours a week, but they don't know why they did it. They lose sight of, hey, I'm building this company for myself, for my family. In 5 years, I would like my life to look this way in all areas, spiritual, purpose, really connecting the dots between business, purpose, success, and faith. So that's stage 1. Stage 2 is ideation. And this is, even with a brand new business or an existing business, this is just kind of this creative whiteboard session where we're brainstorming and we're saying, okay, let's really draw out your business, whether it's a brand new one or something new, and we're really starting to explore what's the big problem that you're out there to solve.
Oh, sure.
How is this problem epidemic? How is it spread everywhere? What is your solution, and how does this thing make money? And it's really getting them to, a lot of times people have ideas, but they've never figured out the money part of it. And so it's the beginning process of, does this thing have marketability or financial legs? Okay. And so much of the time with ideation, we'll have somebody go research the big problem that we're talking about. And so one of the things that we do is they'll go gather 20, 30 articles from all these leading publications on the big problem. And then we'll have them articulate, okay, well, how did we get here? And then what is your solution to this big problem? And we've done it for Cana. We've gone through this process. And it's in one of our podcasts, you talked about how many businesses launch and nobody even wants what they're offering.
Oh, that's hilarious. Yeah, we talk about that. So just the number, I shouldn't say hilarious, that's a bad thing, but it's hilarious from a back, as we stand back and look and we recognize it. Nobody really wants what you have. And so I love the whole idea of the research, because it really leads into what we're talking about today too. Because now they've got that bank of research to be able to take the next step that we're talking about.
Have you ever met somebody, you ask them a question, but they can't give you a deep answer? And this is, we were talking, in our brainstorm session when we were getting ready for this podcast, we were talking about Shark Tank. And we were saying, oh, the poor people that show up at Shark Tank and didn't do their homework, because they're sharks and they will tear you apart.
Right.
Ideation is, we're not tearing people apart in ideation. We're just, but we're testing ideas, and we're just seeing, is there something there? Can we explore it? Can we go further? Once we think we have something like, okay, that's got legs, that'll work. I'm trying to think, there's a cowboy, Scott's also our resident cowboy. What's that saying that the cowboys use? That'll fly, they do it with a dog. That'll hunt. What do you remember?
Oh, that dog will hunt.
That dog will hunt. That's
that
what I was
dog
thinking.
will hunt. Yeah.
That dog will hunt.
Okay.
That, I was going for that.
Okay.
Today we get into stage 3. This is Lean Business Canvas. And Lean Business Canvas is kind of this new way of doing business. When I say new, it's been around for a long time, but a lot of, if you have a business and it's been around 20 years and you have flat revenue, probably when you launched that, you didn't go through Lean Business Canvas. You went through producing this, 100-page document that you wrote once and you've never looked at it since. Or, if you're a startup, probably you're more familiar with Lean Business Canvas. One of the things, I had a rabbi tell me this one day, I loved it. He says, and I'm kind of paraphrasing here in case he's watching, he's going to say, that's not what I said. But what he said is half of the answer is asking the right question. And one of the things I've learned in every business that I've launched, the original idea, even when we've done all our planning, is not what worked.
No, and this is kind of interesting, because this section is not for the faint of heart.
No,
it really isn't for the faint of heart, and that's what we talked about. It's like, we cannot be afraid of somebody asking the difficult questions. And I liked what you said earlier. It's like, okay, it's one thing when you lay it out to your family, hey, this is really what I want to do, and the family's all nice about it, and they go, oh, that's wonderful, son or daughter or whatever. Yeah, they got to be great. Then they sit down with us. It's like, and we start asking the questions, and they begin to sweat a little bit.
Shark questions.
Yeah, but they've got to be asked.
This is vetting. I think in ideation, it's nice vetting.
Yeah.
When you get into Lean Business Canvas, it's extreme vetting, because if your ideas are going to fail, let's fail them before we take them to the market.
Right.
So, and one of the, we just got done shooting a podcast for His Plan, My Plan, which is our purpose curriculum. And we did stage 3, which was, talking about its permission and changing the way you think. And so it's this concept of TDR, which we all have a way of thinking, which produces a way of doing, which produces a set of results. So whether you're a startup founder getting ready to launch a new company, or you're a seasoned CEO and something's not working anymore, one of the things that has to happen through this process is we change our thinking.
Right.
From, what are some of the challenges of people changing their thinking?
I think of the word, okay, it's coming from a pastor and a businessman, there's the sacred cows.
Oh.
The sacred cows, like, you can't be afraid of somebody stepping on even the sacred cows. Like, somebody say you're in business and you're stuck, but it's like, yeah, but we can't change that. We don't want to change that. It's like, well, those are sacred cows. Those become idols, and you lift those up, and it's like, you know what, you're stuck then. You might as well just go ahead and, I hate to say it, but you might as well just go ahead and pack up now.
You think about a Kodak or a Sears or
Blockbuster. We talked about Blockbuster.
You know. Yeah. I mean, with all of these companies, there was a shift in technology. And as a result, there was a shift in buyer journey, how people want to buy. And so if we have a CEO that's had a company for, 20 years, it's made a lot of money, it's very profitable, everything's always worked, they have a way of thinking that was good. And it produced a way of doing that was good, and it produced results that are good. And then all of a sudden, it stops working. And you go to that CEO and you say, well, you're going to have to change your thinking. And so usually they're saying, okay, I'm open. You might have a few good ideas. Or when we're talking spiritually, they'll say, because a lot of times they'll say, God knows more about your business than anybody.
Right.
And they'll say, okay, I'm open. He might have a few good ideas. But when we're talking about giving God permission to change our thinking, and that's what happens when we go through Lean Business Canvas. You gave a great example of somebody driving a car. And what happens with that person driving the car? Do you remember that?
Oh, it's okay. So remember this, like when we're doing this really for the good of the person, and the harder the questions, the more successful, the more opportunity they have to be successful. And so we liken it to somebody that wants to drive the car. It's like, okay, I'm going to drive the car and everything's going okay, and all suddenly things aren't going real well and I'm lost. And so what I want to do is I go, well, I want help, but I don't want a lot of help, so I'm going to still stay behind the wheel. And what I'm going to do is, you're sitting over next to me, or we talk about God.
No, your wife's sitting over next to you. She's telling you that you're going the wrong way, and you're ignoring her.
Yeah. So okay, well, you can take the wheel, but I'm still going to sit here just in case.
Right.
You're not going the direction I want you to go.
Oh, that's good.
And so you're just going to. It's like, okay, I kind of let go of the wheel, but I really haven't, because I still got the pedals. I still got everything. Really is more or less in my control.
You got control.
Yeah. I'm just allowing somebody to kind of, maybe make a couple of turns here and there. And we've got to reach the point with this Lean Business Canvas. Like, you got to be willing to say, look, change whatever you got to change. I'll move wherever I have to move, because I want to be successful.
You have to be desperate.
Yeah.
I mean, that's what happens when you go through Lean Business Canvas. You're desperate to get the right answers.
Right.
Because so much is writing. So whether you're doing something brand new, a startup, or whether you have a business and something's changed and we have to get the revenue back on track, you're desperate for answers, and you're saying, God, you take over. And it's interesting, because when we're going through Lean Business Canvas, most Lean Business Canvases, it's a canvas, and a lot of them will ask 9 questions of your business. We've seen some that ask 7 questions. We've seen some, it's not the number. And one of the ones that we use is Lean Stack. All of them have a philosophy behind it. But it's just this idea that if you can't answer these 9 or 7 or these questions and deep about your business, you don't know it. And it literally, before it was digital, it was a canvas. It was something that you drew out, and you see these in a lot of offices still. And so when somebody first goes through the process, and we ask the question, they just come up with very simplistic answers. And so, and it's almost like they're taking a test. Okay, let's see. Question number 1, who's my segment? So who's gonna, so this is, to break this down, we always say, okay, this is like, we're going to open up a seafood restaurant. And now we have to decide.
So sushi?
There's going to be sushi.
Yeah, I won't be there. But okay, anyway, yeah. My kids will go, but
your kids will go. We were just talking about that.
Okay, so seafood.
And we have to decide what kind of fish that we're going after. Okay, and we can't just say, well, we're just going to go after any kind of fish. We're going to, well, is it fresh water? Is it deep sea? There's a difference between if we're going to go catch tuna versus if we're going to do sardines, right? There's all these differences. But a lot of times, to stick with that kind of analogy or example, somebody will say, well, we're just looking to catch fish because we're going to serve them up. And so what we'll do is we'll say, why? And then they'll give you an answer. And then we'll go, why? And then they'll come up with another answer. And each why, we go at least 5 whys deep, minimum.
Which causes people to get more irritable and more
defensive.
Irritable. Yeah.
Because no one, Uncle George never asked that question.
Right.
They're used to people saying, "Oh, that's a great idea," and we're going deeper, and we're challenging every idea. Why? And as we peel back these layers of the onion, we start seeing a deeper problem that's out there, and we have better answers. This is the process between lean business. There's let's say we're going with one that's standard, and it's 9 basic questions, and it's going to be, hey, who's the segments? What's the problem? What's the solutions? What's your unique value proposition? How does that give you an unfair competitive advantage? Right. What are the key metrics behind your, So there's all these different questions, and we start challenging each one with why. Here's the amazing thing that happens in this process. By asking different questions, it reveals innovation. We start to so when we're doing a turnaround, or we take a company that's had some, that's been around for a while, as we're going through these questions, now these are questions that they've asked and answered a long time ago. And they have a programming, a way of...
Maybe they've never answered.
You know what?
Sometimes they never answered these.
I can't count the CEOs that have said, "Oh no, we have that. We have that." And then I say, "Great, why don't you get it?" And they can't produce it. They're embarrassed to say that, if they have it, it's, in the apartment that they lived in 25 years ago.
Well, and Gerald, when you do this, again, our purpose is to make you successful.
Right.
That's what we're after. We believe that there's a God plan inside of you, a purpose inside of you.
Right.
And so you whether you're starting a business or whether your business is flat and it's not going anywhere, our purpose is not to make you uncomfortable and mad and have you leave the room.
No.
It really is to make you successful.
And we've never had anybody leave the room. But we've had some looks.
We've had some looks.
I think we've had some people that were thinking, and it's really, I think with the startups, the startup founders, they're scared to death and they're pretty humble. But sometimes with the turnarounds, we're sitting in the room with a multimillionaire sometimes. They've maybe built a company that's been very successful. Sometimes they've been the smartest guy or gal in the room in their company. And it stops working, and they're not used to people challenging their thinking. And one of the things that has to happen in Lean Business Canvas is we have to change thinking. Because if we want a different result, we have to change thinking. And from a spiritual standpoint, when I get to these points, and I have, 33 years as a serial entrepreneur, Cana's you're a co-founder, and this is the 6th one, and the day one that we decided to do this, we're not doing that day one stuff. We're not even on the same idea. We've evolved. And I can't count how many times we've said, "Lord, what we're doing is not working. Please come in." Out of desperation, we give you permission. We've got some stinking thinking in our head. We give you permission. Exactly. Come in. Wash us clean of all these bad ideas. And when we're dealing with an organization that their customer acquisition system is no longer working, when it's a startup, this is one of the steps to build a customer acquisition system, the way that you'd produce customers and revenue. With a turnaround, they have this in place, and there's many moving parts and cogs, and the bad thinking, maybe it was good thinking at one time, but it no longer works. And to try to change their thinking is to try to take a good idea through a jar of molasses. It's really hard. It's really, really, and that person has to be there's a desperation of, we're willing to change whatever we have to. Speak to that a little bit, Scott, about what is it about pride and ego that stops somebody from wanting to, change their thinking?
It's so funny because what was on the first thing that came to my mind as you were describing things was it really takes a humility.
Oh, wow.
Just an incredible amount of humility to be able to say, okay, maybe my original idea isn't the best one, and allowing somebody to come in and ask the hard questions to move to a position where it's like, okay, again, we want you to be successful, so you're going to move to what's really going to work. Pride really does. It keeps us from that. And then, of course, pride along with that, then there becomes that fear. I mean, it really is a fear that's like, I'm afraid of what could happen. It's like, well, what you're doing right now is not working. Why do you... You know what I mean? It's almost like you need to have a greater fear of what's not working than of what's down the road in the future.
Well, we got the famous line of, your very best thinking has produced your present results. Why would you trust you?
Oh, exactly.
And that's kind of a tough question, but it's like, okay, if you're, and one of the examples, we're in Los Angeles, and so, we have Hollywood right here, and one of the things that we were talking about when we were doing stage 3 of His Plan, My Plan, was, let's say that you're an actor.
Okay.
And you've hired an agent, okay? And this agent is supposed to get you good parts, good gigs. And for maybe this agent did great for years. But in the last 3 years, this agent can't get you a good gig. And now the contract's up, and it's time to renew the contract. Why would you want to renew with that same agent?
No way.
That's selling you the same thing that doesn't work?
No way. And selling you the same excuses. Well, you don't understand, times are hard, or whatever.
So you're a victim. So you don't, so I love this. There's not anything we can do about it. It's just the economy.
Oh, yeah.
And what's interesting, in every economy, no matter how horrible it is, there's always somebody who's thriving.
Yep.
It's like in the market, in the stock market. When everybody's selling, there's always somebody who's
buying.
Right.
Exactly.
And when everybody's buying, there's always somebody who, it's real estate. Is it a buyer's market or a sell? It's the same thing here in kind of the idea realm. And so that's what we have to be willing to do. That's what Lean Business Canvas does. It's to ask these tough questions. The first time we go through, it's a pop quiz. We're just answering the questions. And then we go through each one and we go deeper and deeper and deeper. Now, let's say we spend a couple of weeks on Lean Business Canvas and we've come up with some answers. Do we now take that whole Lean Business Canvas and put it to bed and then we just move forward and never look back?
Oh, that's so funny, because the next part I was going to tell you was like, okay, so first we have humility. Okay, we've gone through the whole process. You got to be a lifelong learner.
You got to be a
lifelong learner. Not just, okay, I got to figure it out. It's like a lifelong learner. It's like the market is constantly changing. I mean, you see that. It's like the number of things, like look how many phones have changed. I mean, how quickly they change every single year. So it's like you have to always be on top of your game. Always asking questions, always growing.
I've heard people say we accelerate or at the speed of trust. I've heard people say that. Well, but we accelerate at the speed of technology and the speed of buyer journey, and understanding that, because technology is never going to change, or never going to stop changing, right?
Right.
And as long as it changes, the way people buy are going to change. And one of the things that happens is when we go through Lean Business Canvas, even with a brand new startup, they have these firm ideas that they just want to work, and sometimes they're resisting coming up, digging deeper. But certainly in a turnaround, or somebody who's a company that's been around for a while and the revenue's gone flat, they have this thinking everywhere. It's almost like a cancer. And it was a good thing at first, but it's turned into a cancer. And there are territories and egos and, and even though they know they have to change their thinking, they love to tell you why they do these things.
I was thinking about something as you were talking. It's like, I remember, it wasn't even that long ago. It's like everybody had the flip phone. The flip phone was so cool. You could do the flip phone. And then, They came out with, I hate to say iPhone because I don't want to claim anybody over one company.
I like the iPhone.
One company. Okay. So when they first came out, I was like, oh, who's going to want a phone like that? Look how big it is. It doesn't move. Do we find any flip phones now? No.
You know what? Okay. Think about this. In business, IT, our IT departments sanction the BlackBerry. So we all had BlackBerries.
Oh yeah, we all had the BlackBerry.
Okay, and it was the only one acceptable in business because. So then the iPhone came out. Okay, and I switched over to the iPhone. And I remember my IT department, a guy that I paid, telling me all the reasons why we can't use the iPhone in business.
Exactly. Oh yeah.
And I remember telling him,
it's BlackBerry.
I said, guess what? CEOs all over the world are buying these things, and guess what you're going to have to do? You're going to have to figure out how to make these work on your network. And he was just convinced. But as technology shifted, and we started liking things that the iPhone could do, it was the smartphone versus the old BlackBerry.
I still remember the first iPhone. That was amazing.
And I used to carry a Razor flip phone. I liked it because it was real thin. I kept that in my front pocket, and then I used to carry my BlackBerry, and I'd put that in my briefcase so that way I could do email. I mean, that was the extent. I could make phone calls and I could do emails. I wasn't really using my phone as a browser or anything like that. But look at how we've evolved.
Yep.
So it's really the same process. So in Lean Business Canvas, the thing that we want to get across to you is it's just a process that you go through. It makes you better.
It absolutely does.
It really helps you focus on what your business is all about, who your customers, who are the right people. What's the big problem? There's pain in it, for sure. But there's an innovation. I mean, we believe that if you're the faith-driven entrepreneur, God has put a plan and purpose that's going to play out in the marketplace inside of you. A lot of times the innovation doesn't come out, and it doesn't get exposed till we go through this process.
Oh yeah, so many times we've seen that.
So this is stage 3. In our next podcast, we're coming up with stage 4, and that's the business planning. That's the spreadsheet. So in this stage, we're coming through, okay, we're asking these tough questions. We're going through the process of coming up with the answers. We never put Lean Business Canvas. We open the door. It always stays open. We're always going back into that room because we're a learning organization.
Right.
Next podcast, we come back with business planning. We'll talk about different things, the components that need to be in there. So it's Scott and Gerald with CanaGlobal. Checking out. We'll see you in the next podcast.